And welcome back to those who are now joining us as well for Art in Hong Kong, People, Place and Practice. So this next session is something that's obviously very close to me as we go through the history of the Sovereign Art Foundation. David Elliott has been our chair judge for the past 11 years, and he's currently based in the UK. So please tune in now to Zoom discussion between him and our founder, Chairman Howard Bilton, as they have a candid conversation about the Sovereign Asian Art Prize.
First off, I want to welcome everybody to our webinar. I'm sorry that we can't be live with everybody, which would obviously be the preference from everybody's point of view, but circumstances dictate otherwise. Anyway, we'll make the best of it, and we hope this talk will prove informative and help get our message across, which is important to us. And first off, I welcome David Elliott, who is our chair of judges and has been in that position for as long as I can remember almost, but I think about 10 years, David?
11.
11 years, okay, good, right. Well, I'm going to pour a little bit of cream down his back at this point because I didn't warn him about this, but I think it's fitting. But David is one of the foremost art experts, curators in the world, and we are extraordinarily fortunate to have had him as the chair of judges, and he has been extraordinarily helpful in our development of the art prizes, and remains so. And also he's a very amusing bloke. So for all those reasons, we're delighted that he's agreed to stay on and is helping us still. And we're delighted to have had him as chair for the 11 years. Why did you agree to do this, David?
Well, that's a big question. I should say I'm speaking from deep in the disease-ridden heartlands of Great Britain, namely Oxford, where last night Oriel College decided at last to take down this statue of Cecil Rhodes, a notable imperialist, not one involved in Hong Kong, but he could have been. So we're living in momentous times in many ways. And I guess the reason, to answer your question, Howard, I'd been involved with Asian art for a while. When I began to get, I was approached, in fact, my friend Pamela Kemler, who lived in Hong Kong at that time, was on your board. I also knew Claire Sue, Claire Sue, who was also on your jury. Your jury.
Yeah.
And they told me about this. And I'd visited Hong Kong before, but I'd really been involved in the Asian art since the beginning of the 80s, and we made a big show of Indian art of different kinds. Ranging from the modern Bombay progressives right up to the present in the 80s, Indian photography, and also looking at folk art and looking at these separately, but also within a broad parameter of culture. So that was really the bug that got me going. Then working in Japan and China through the 80s, of course, living in Japan later as director, the first director of the Murray Art Museum from 2001 to 2005. And I think when I met Tiff, I was in Turkey. I was the first director of the Istanbul Modern at that time. And Hong Kong had always been a bit of a mystery to me in a way. I'd worked in the mainland, Chinese mainland, done a big show at the beginning of the 90s of the new Chinese art. I met Johnson Chang at that time, and that he was doing the thing, and he was a great, energetic people, and a great source of information to me about art on the mainland and classical Chinese painting. But getting to know more about Hong Kong and its cultural scene was much more difficult. I did meet Oscar Ho and the people at the Hong Kong Art Gallery. Again, this was in the mid-90s. But I didn't come to Hong Kong very often. And all of a sudden, I found myself coming more and more here. I discovered you've been doing this, and Tiffany was talking to me about it, and obviously it had huge possibilities, but it also had a few problems, and I thought I could help with those problems. Some of them are just procedural, how to get nominations from, what's Asia for a start? And the same problem that Claire Sue was struggling with the Asian Art Archive. How do you define it? And then how do you get contacts? And the need for it. And I found it fascinating. And the possibility of looking at vast amounts of work which was sent in, not just ad hoc, but by nominators. And in fact, we strengthened the nominating system. It was a little bit shaky when I got there, but we actually made sure we got professional people in each place and general specialists of the region who were nominating people. So I was able to see something that had been firstly looked at by someone who knew it wasn't just picked up from anywhere. And it was a way I could learn, so I got a lot out of it. But I'd like to ask it the same question to you, Howard. What was the spark that made you want to do it?
Yeah, well, it's a question I've been asked a lot, and I struggle with an adequate answer, really, because I think it was just a light bulb moment about how to turn what was a private passion of art collecting into a charitable enterprise. But I spent some time refining thoughts on it, and it took a while to come up with the format we started with. And then refine it from there. So to begin with, it was an open entry system, and we very quickly became snowed under with entries. And it was actually a local gallerist, Katie D'Attilly, who you'll know very well, David, who suggested the nomination system, which we readily adopted. And actually at that point, she was sending us artists and said she thought it was improper that she was allowed to do so, having a commercial interest in the people that she sent forward.
Right, too.
We readily thought, well, yes, actually, why didn't we think of that? But that she was actually instrumental in changing that. Mm-hmm. But the original aims of the prize were when I've been in Hong Kong 30 years, and the prize has been going for 16 of those. And it became apparent to me from an early stage that the art scene and the cultural scene in Hong Kong around it was pretty limited. There was a few commercial galleries who were finding the next superstar Chinese artists, very little exposure for Hong Kong artists, and to my mind, very little appreciation by the public of art for art's sake, because we had no museum of contemporary art or any way of displaying contemporary art other than in these commercial galleries. So one reason was, let's put some art in front of the general public so that they can appreciate it for its own sake. And while doing so, we can help these artists, giving them international exposure, which they lack. Because although the prize always has been open to internationally famous artists, realistically, we don't get them. They're beyond entering art prizes. I think we had a few contactors and said, I'll enter if you can guarantee I'll win. And of course, I said, well, I can't do that because I'm not a judge, so I have no influence over it. And that's entirely proper that I'm not a judge. And secondly, because the judging system will take its course, and we don't wish to try and influence that. So realistically, we're getting the next level down is what we're aiming for, which is nationally famous artists who are bubbling under, who are well known in their own country, but not internationally, and we give them an international platform. So we've been able to assist artists grow their careers, I think, and our results and mapping of this, we can prove that has happened. To me, that was always a secondary aim to using the art as a way of raising funds to help impoverished children. And I was always approaching this first and foremost from a charitable standpoint. But it became very apparent that if we were going to raise money for the charity, we had to have the world's best art prize. So we set out to make the world's best art prize to enhance the fundraising opportunities. And of course, it took some time to get it really up to speed. And, again, I think you were of enormous help with that, as indeed were many other people, and all of whom I'd like to add give up their time for free, as do I and as do Tiff. But it's been a fantastic joint enterprise between many people collaborating with us, and I think we can count it a huge success. We've raised over $9 million US. We've helped some mid-career artists go to the next stage. We've given the Hong Kong public exposure to art which they wouldn't otherwise seen, which is a very mixed, varied, and we'd like to think these days at least, a show of museum quality which they otherwise wouldn't see. So we've achieved what we set out to, but there's a lot more to do, and we're determined to continue to do it. But we're pretty pleased, and we don't get smug about it, but I think we can be a little bit self-congratulatory. And when I see the show that's on at the moment and has just opened, and we would have been sat amongst doing this, I think we can say this is a great show. So we've done something pretty good here.
Yeah, well, I think so. And I mean, you say it's a team effort. It is a gigantic team effort. I mean, there's your team working with Sovereign, who kind of hold it all together, administer it.
Yeah.
Then there's the nominators, and I mean, I see this year there's 88 nominators from 25 countries.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing.
It's great, isn't it? It's great. And all of them doing it from the kindness of their heart. I think they enjoy doing it. I mean, the feedback we get is that it's a pleasure for them to help artists that they know who they think should be recognised by putting them forward. And I think the judges are in the way. Yeah. I think
one's got Turkey alongside Brunei and Bhutan. With their nominators in all of those places. And of course, the pool of artists is very different in each.
Yeah.
And the trick of it is trying to reflect that in one's nominations. And it's a very good job. Then, of course, there's the judges. It's 5 or 6, I think, of these. It must be an odd number. I think it's probably 5 this year.
We don't actually need an odd number, because our scoring system, as you will know, means we just add up the total points. So we don't require a majority decision on anything. The point system is designed to deal with impulses in trying to get a consensus. And I know that one year when we ran our European Art Prize, and Peter Blake was actually the head of the judges, and in my absence, he rather hijacked the procedure. I'm not complaining, but I'm just pointing out. And he tried to get a consensus from, we actually had that year 9 judges, an unusually high number. And they wanted to reach a consensus on which was the winning piece. And when I spoke to them afterwards, shortly afterwards, over the lunch I'd arranged, none of them were happy with the result, but it was a result that they could all live with. And I think we illustrated with that our system is perhaps superior because it's points-based, and that's it. So the one with the most points, it wins, and there is no consensus required. And I've never had too many complaints about who won it through that system. So I think it is quite good.
I think it's a better system, to be honest. It's not the old way, as you say, certainly not the old British way, where consensus, it should be in inverted commas very often. It's usually a series of blackmails going on in the room.
Bit of horse trading.
Yeah, I've been on the Turner Prize jury, and I was appalled. It was almost over my dead body.
I would have to have been a fly on the wall at that particular point in the competition.
Yeah, well, I was in a minority, of a very small minority, shall I say.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's, I like it because just to explain to people, we each see the works. We make our first sifting online. There's no way you can get these, 611 artworks to see by all the different judges. So we do that online, but then when the finals are there, we all come and see them, but we vote individually. Yeah. And then it's totted up. And this is interesting. I don't always agree with it, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's not what it's about. It's about there being different, all professionals with different perspectives, different views, and it expresses something other than individual feeling. And individual feeling is very, very important. It's obviously what I work with a lot of the time professionally, but I think in something that is having a very broad view, seeking emerging talent and all this thing, one can't know everything. And we all have to admit this, and it's a good way of it being expressed in a transparent and open way. And that I support completely. And that is one of the reasons I got involved with you, Howard. Yeah. The other reason is synergy. Yeah. And this is the synergy between, obviously between getting money to charities and getting money to artists. So both benefit. And the artists get as much as they would if they sold through a gallery. So then they're not losing out at all from this. So they're not subsidizing it. the nominators and the judges, and you put in time or money into it, but the artists don't. And the most they do is take a risk that they're not chosen for the final. But I mean, they don't have to pay a fee.
That's right.
The other thing is with the growing interest in an Asian art market, and you know, we've seen this not only in our lifetime, but in the second half of our lifetime. I mean, there wasn't much of an Asian art market in the 90s, frankly. I mean, one of the milestones for me was the first Asian Pacific Triennale in Brisbane in 1993, which I went along to. That was the first time anyone had tried to bring all of this in some sort of control and show, because most of the Western world weren't even clear. Cambodia, art, forget it. Well,
we have definitely made some discoveries, and I think we should have a look at some of them.
Absolutely.
So with your permission, I'm going to share our screen and
go for it.
Grab up some images, which will, if technology allows.
Much more interesting to look at art than me, anyway.
Oh, I would find it difficult not to agree with that.
Exactly.
So this was one of our earlier winners, but not his earlier winning piece. This was an early entry by Chow Chun Fai, who, how do I move this on?
Press the button.
That's it.
Good.
So, yeah, this was a finalist, not a winner, but Chow Chun Fai later won it. And I have to confess an interest that since then I've collected quite a lot of his pieces. What do you reckon of this one, David?
Sorry?
What do you think of this one?
It's fascinating. Is it a recent one, or is it more?
No, it's, I'd say it's probably 12 years old.
Yeah, so, before he started putting the text on them.
Yeah.
He's probably doing something more now. No, I like his work very much. And he's one of those artists, I think, who's now becoming he was kind of elder middle generation of Hong Kong artists. And I think what has happened in Hong Kong is that now there's a real art scene in Hong Kong of Hong Kong artists and some kind of identity around that, which isn't they share any style or approach or anything like that, but they share a view of themselves and the world within a political macrocosm. And this is very fascinating.
Yeah, that's certainly something we've noticed, all of us at the Art Prize, that the strength of Hong Kong art is getting so much better. And you're right, when we started this, it was hard to find any Hong Kong artist really of renown, but now there are many, and here's another one. Oh, Chow Chun Fai, incidentally, has got a new exhibition on at the moment at Exit Gallery, which is all paintings based around the demonstrations.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah, terrific work. A little bit controversial, as you can imagine. So it hasn't been publicised as much as it might, but great work.
Yeah, well, I saw his work, I think, in the Sovereign Prize and also on the walls of Pamela Kemba's house. And I chose his work for the Sydney Biennale in 2010, which I was the artistic director of. Yeah.
Here's one. This again isn't his winning piece, but this was an entry by Chung Ching Hua, and again a little controversial. Another Hong Kong artist. Those looking carefully might see some language which is a bit fruity. Let's put it this way. Yeah, and in fact,
fascinating work.
This piece ended up in my wife's collection as she bid on it at auction and paid way too much money, or, well, maybe not, but a goodly amount. And I think he's become quite important, hasn't he? I haven't kept track of him too well, but Chung Kin Hua seems to be going strength to strength as well.
He was doing strong work, and I mean, he was shown as a Hong Kong Pavilion in Venice 3 or 4 years ago. And so, I mean, he's certainly of this new emerging generation. It was him and Lee Kit, Chow Chun Fai. These were leading characters in that emerging generation. Here we go, Frog King.
There we go, the Frog King, yes. We all like the Frog King, don't we?
Absolutely.
He's bonkers in the extreme, but going strong, I think. There seems to be a lot of interest in his work at the moment. A couple of very strong shows at Katie Tilly's gallery. I keep mentioning her. She owed me a drink, I think.
Well, he's a popular artist and really out there in the streets, and she's been able to sort of organize him into more formally, and that's good from everyone's point of view.
Yeah, I think she's done a great job sort of curating his work, which, as you say, was all over the place. And again, one of our earlier finalists who turned up wearing very strange gear and some glasses you couldn't see through, and amusing a lot of people. This was an early winner, actually, David, before your time, I think. And was one of the few who has not really gone on as we expected, but he seemed to have signed an exclusive deal with a representative who we thought didn't really know what was how this should be done, and hampered him greatly. And he's rather disappeared, although we did see a couple of pieces from him at Art Basel a couple of years ago. But most of our other winners have gone on to great things. This is one of my personal favorites, and you'll know all about him, David.
Absolutely, yeah. Rasheed is, I mean, that's a classic work. I mean, it's from the Veil series, which was somewhat shocking when it appeared, and is still shocking.
Yeah.
He's important as an artist, also as a teacher and leader, based in Lahore, a great figure in contemporary Pakistan art. And I've worked him on a number of occasions, and it was great to see that this work was shown with you. Yeah.
This was a peculiar one, and because it arrived, and at the time the prize was only open to painting, and I think you were again instrumental in changing that, because you wanted photography.
Absolutely.
And this arrived, and it was photography, but it was described as painting. So we had to actually disqualify it from the prize, but we wanted to show it because it was so fascinating and interesting. So we did show it, and I know, as a little anecdote, and perhaps slightly grubby talking about money, but it was estimated at $2,000 for this piece, and a bidding war ensued at our dinner, which I might have been involved with, along with my next door neighbour up where I live in Pok Fulam, and he eventually got it at $14,000, so about 7 times estimate. And at the time it appeared, well, very charitable of you to bid up the price.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, a right bargain, I think. So it sort of illustrates that we offer an investment opportunity, we would argue, as well as an art collecting opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's right. It's a gift to people who are interested in art or would like to have art with half a brain, because it's been sifted twice.
Yes.
It's been sifted by people, nominators who know what they're doing, by judges who know what they're doing, and I mean, in the auction houses, obviously you're looking at provenance and all the rest of it. You know it's genuine. But in contemporary art, of course, it's genuine. I mean, there's no such thing as a fake in contemporary art, really.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of, is this worth spending time with? And if it's gone through this system with, I think, fairly skeptical bunch of people, then sure as hell it's worth spending some time with. Now, I should say that I'm not interested in the art market at all. I don't work with the market, but it's very necessary because artists must sell their work. It's one of the ways they can live, and it's very, very important, and I'm very happy to support it. Now, though, do I think art's about prizes? But for the same reason, I support prizes, because it's a platform for getting work out so people can see it.
Well, we certainly make great play on the fact that this is a unique forum where you get to see art which has been vetted by 2 boards of independent experts, first the nominators and then the judges. And I think that is unique, and a point that you've made there, and well made. This one I don't know too much about. I think this is one you quite liked, isn't it, David?
It's Taniguchi. Oh,
yeah.
Very, very important Philippine artist.
Mm.
A Filipina conceptualist, and she's making wonderful work. She's widely seen abroad, very highly thought of, shows regularly in Berlin.
Excellent. Jane Lee, I know.
2007.
Yeah.
So,
This was paint applied by syringe, and it doesn't show very well here, but I thought this was great work, and I think, again, she's become quite important, certainly in Singapore.
In Singapore, yeah, no, she's a good artist, yeah. Sure. Good painter.
This was a winner from 2007, which I didn't altogether get, but I think you were an enthusiast about this work, weren't you?
Yes, very. It's the first time I saw it, I think. She wasn't so known. Well, no, it wasn't actually. I'd seen her work in 2004 in Tokyo. But very independent artist using traditional Nihonga style painting. So traditional pigments, traditional support paper, but with these weird, sort of rather masochistic sadomasochistic images, and so very, very strong. I showed her several times.
Now I'm getting messages that we're quickly running out of time here, David. When I sent,
we're obviously having fun.
Hours. Yeah, we're having quite fun. But perhaps I could whiz through a few more images and just.
Yeah, well, maybe we should talk about this year's prize.
Yes.
Just quickly.
Let's do that. What do you think of the quality of the work? To me, it's very strong.
Yes, well, obviously, I think it's, yes, having looked at all 611 of the submissions, my God, it took a long time. But it is a very strong submission from places which the strengths are not in the traditional areas. I don't think China's so strong this time. There's Angela Sue's work, wonderful drawings. I think it's a very surprising and beautiful show. I look forward to seeing it, I hope.
Yeah, well, we'd
in the real flesh.
We'd love to get you out here. And again, K11, who've hosted us this year, it's made such a huge difference to the prize.
No, it's great. Another Sandy. Very good.
The space is magnificent, and it just shows how that art can look in a proper museum-style space when it's a museum-style quality. And it has made a huge difference. So I know they're listening, and I want to thank them dearly for allowing us this opportunity.
Absolutely.
But
because of coronavirus, of course, as judges haven't been able to travel to see and judge the work. So you've appointed a local board of judges who will really act in as our proxies, who will see the works in the round and come to a decision on that. Which I know all of us judges are very happy with. You've chosen good people, and it's an important principle. You can't do everything online, and this is art. It's important. It's living in the real world. It makes this visceral effect on people, and we need to treat it with respect.
Yes, and importantly for me, as I think I said at the beginning, we've raised over $9 million US, and at the moment, we're spending a lot of that in Hong Kong on our Make It Better program, helping children who are bereft of hope. And surprisingly enough, in this very wealthy city of ours, the government official figures tell us that there's 1 million people in Hong Kong living below the official poverty line, and 170,000 of those are children. And we're trying to help those amongst the 170,000 who have the learning and behavioral disabilities and transforming their lives through art. And we know we're achieving that. Hong Kong University have been following us around and mapping the results and basically saying we're producing astounding results. So we know that we're doing great things, and David, you've been a large part of that, and I thank you dearly for it, as everybody else who's helped us.
Well, every bit helps, and it is a bit in face of huge problems.
It really is.
So we can really work and improve the system that allows such things to happen.
It really is. It's a drop in the ocean, really, but we have to try. And doing nothing is not an option. And as you say, every little helps, and we are making a difference. So again, thanks to you and everybody else. And I think with that, we have to sign off.
Okay.
Thanks, David.
Nice talking to you, Howard.
Likewise, always a pleasure. I hope to see you somewhere in the world soon.
Yeah, and to those outside, if you've been listening, thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And goodbye it's good night from me, and it's good night from him.
Good night.
Bye.